Hello everyone, my name is Dhanmati Singh. I am an interdisciplinary artist. I live in Toronto, Ontario, Canada with my two sons. I am a social service worker and I teach art to marginalized communities. I also am a student at York University in my third year. I welcome you to view my art today. My praxis surrounds race equity, gender justice, climate change, and post-colonial resilience. So please enjoy. People have asked me how I came to be an artist. Well, I love big pieces, so the first type of art I attempted were murals. I began with rooms, then I painted basements, bathrooms, the inside and outside of restaurants, and parking garages. So I joined the editorial collective of Diva, a literary journal of women of South Asian origin in the early 90s. And I became deeply engaged in women's rights and expressed that through art, writing, and public speaking. I was 19 years old at the time, and Diva was the first place that I felt accepted for who I was as an Indo-Caribbean woman. I created content-driven artwork. I also got to work with these beauties. My most vivid memory was of us constructing this gathering for women of South Asian origin to speak about and oppose violence against women. I think I painted this banner the day of the event. It's of an Indian woman wearing a beautiful sari and holding a baby in her arms. They are both pumping their fists symbolically, united in the desire to stop violence against women. These experiences stuck with me, and it's been my passion to merge art and activism ever since. These paintings represent the budding consciousness that I had as a teenager, looking for my artistic roots. I play with the idea of subconscious. I use swirling landscapes and kind of a parody of the Group of Seven, which basically were the extolled Canadian artists at the time. I was consciously trying to liberate my mind from the imaginary Canadian landscape, looking for my own roots. The library's vast array of art and history books helped me study the pantheon of old masters based on knowledge, ideas, and principles. YouTube videos help me to problem solve and delve into modern techniques. I joke that YouTube is where I got my art degree. I painted traditional portraits through word of mouth for about 15 years after Diva. I was very intent, especially on exploring ways to express golds, which is desirable for its matchless luminosity and rarity. According to Mughal and Indian art, historically, Indian artists have been using gold for years to create transcendence in their artwork pieces. Later, I began to take liberties with these things to create a platform for ideas, bigger ideas than the things that affected me day to day. This piece was after George Floyd was murdered, wanting to represent Black lives that are systematically and intentionally targeted for demise. This painting is called Auction Block and represents many things. Ultimately, it represents being sold out. This image is of a Black woman being silenced and having her mouth taped, having been immortalized through hashtags, but not in the court of justice. The subject of my painting is waiting for justice at her most vulnerable and naked state, pleading with her eyes. Basically, I'm a self-taught artist, and I began to experiment with abstract. As a traditional portrait artist, I found abstracts to be completely freeing as a form of expression. As the world advances in technology, so does art in things that I incorporated into it, like mark making, digital manipulations, and acrylic pouring techniques. Artistically, I was Breaking Bad. I love this new way of expressing art. I ultimately wanted to incorporate abstract and multimedia with realistic images. I created these pieces to represent the pressing problems of climate change and the intersection between science, art, and the environment. Like Bob Marley sang in Natural Mystic, it feels to me that there's an undeniable mystical force that's sweeping through the entire world, affecting all of us. Physically, mentally, spiritually, financially, post-pandemic, art traumas are intensified. With these birds, I kept seeing a cloud of hazy mist pluming over the world, as poison, as deadly as fear. Our pandemic health disasters only seem to illuminate our already existing social disasters.
America Deconstructed is about getting back to a healthy spiritual heartbeat. The world's most dominant and economic and military power system breeds social control and continues to sustain economic marginalization to those who are systematically excluded by political, social, and cultural barriers. We can all agree that 2020 was a difficult year. This is a post emancipation butterfly. It's our society beating our wings against the darkness. Our once colonial controlled caterpillar has destroyed many plants in its overeating, has hung its bloated body to sleep, yet tucked inside sacks of caterpillar skin, the life, the imaginal cells which remain develop a beautiful body from the fatigued, over-consuming one. The actual breakdown allowing us to develop and emerge into a new body. This painting represents my desire to have a new way of living lightly upon the earth, to have a new society that is a beautifully evolving, living being. These two paintings that I'm about to introduce have not been seen before. The first is called A Different Kind of War. This piece is about how our global economy is currently weathering war and disease. With a sudden economic shock, such as the coronavirus outbreak was to economies worldwide, we are creating excessive debt and too much inflation as prices of food and oil rise. Our current economic settings are irrefutably reminiscent of previous pre-recession periods in history. Economists note that the war in Ukraine has disrupted global supply chains and dramatically increased commodity prices and energy costs in the US and in the EU. So this painting exhibits my growing concerns with possible aggressive tightening of monetary policy. It's difficult to envision a future where a worldwide downturn could be avoided. Finally, I would like to introduce my new series. I feel that the images we are used to seeing of the traditionally garbed, demure Indian woman or the flashy Bollywood icon smoke screens the actual complexity and often contradictory nature of Indo-Caribbean femininity. This is showcased in my new series called Kalapani Voices. Building upon Kal Torabuli's precept that the, quote, coolie's voyage across the seas left a permanent stamp on the imaginary landscape. So basically, the Kalapani dialogue contains the reconstruction and deconstruction of the concept that begins with a curse to those who cross the Kalapani, meaning the black waters, which, by the way, all Indians must cross when migrating overseas. From its origin as a Brahminic text cautioning about the perils of marine expeditions, to its representing as a historical metaphor and literary device, the ever-changing influence and meaning of Kalapani maintains its historical validity and importance in colonial and nationalist reality. This dialogue recognizes the cusp between the African and Indian involvement in sea crossings and the familiar experiences of enslaved indentured workers. Like many new artists, I see a new and positive element in this dialogue, and it is the moment of creativity, rebirth, and creation, evoking a life-changing new reality which is greatly impacting Indo-Caribbean art and literature.
So I have so far created a kind of a small, sweet gathering of followers on Instagram. I would love for you to be a part of that. I will be posting more Kalapani series, Kalapani voice series, and hopefully we'll be able to see more of those. I'm really excited about it. I'm an Indo-Caribbean woman, and this last painting has really meant something to me as far as I look forward to doing more like them in the future. So I'm at Dunmati11. That's my handler on Instagram. Thank you so much, Surrey Muse. This is the first time that I've exhibited my art gallery like this, except for on Instagram. So I'm really proud and very pleased and humbled, and I'm grateful for the opportunity. I hope that you enjoy the rest of the program, and I'll see you soon.